So Arakni, ASC, and I, we have an interesting history. So after their release in Outsiders, I believed them to be a very strong sleeper hero of sorts in the Blitz format. But then came the change which added sideboarding to Blitz, which absolutely crippled the entire Assassin class comparative to the rest of the field. I then took ASC to Queenstown for the Blitz Underdog event, thinking that my reps and experience would give me an edge in that restricted format, and then proceeded to go 0-3 on nothing but bad beats. So with a bad taste in my mouth, I hadn't touched ASC since, but with the release of all the amazing Assassin support since, I've revamped my ASC deck, and today I'm sharing that build with y'all. A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando. Hey there, my flesh and blood friends. Welcome back to Dice Commando and Go Again, a fabulous cast. And thanks so much for tuning in today for our continuation of the Blitz Deck Tech series headed into Skirmish Season 9. And today we are focusing on Arakni ASC. Blitz is an awesome format and integral to Flesh and Blood's long-term success. With Skirmish Season returning in late August, the competitive focus on Blitz has returned. Every Tuesday until the start of Skirmish Season 9, I'll be covering a different Blitz Deck Tech. Now, our Dice Commando channel members, of course, have early access to these videos as they are uploaded. The first wave is already available, with another wave pending after the July 3rd BNS announcement. And hey, if James White approves, you should too. So I'll see you here every Tuesday through August for more Blitz content. So as I mentioned, coming out of Outsiders, ASC was something I'd put quite a bit of effort into, and I actually had the deck in a pretty good spot headed into, I believe it was Skirmish Season 7, if I did that right. But coming out of that, they did the Blitz sideboard change, and the fact that Assassins kind of need to run all of their daggers in order to be effective, or at least at the time did, using up all of those sideboard slots that you needed specific tech for, what it did was it dropped the Assassins comparatively to all their peers who now had more sideboard flexibility to tech for specific matchups, right? So it's not necessarily that they got worse because they could sideboard, but because everyone else had more sideboard slots comparatively. The Assassins in general, and especially ASC, who needs the dagger flexibility to run the way that they were running at the time, which was like a red line build, it really, really hurt them. So what I'm going to go through today, I'm going to go ahead and bring it up so we can talk about some specific points as we go through. But I've modified and I've kind of shifted a little bit away from that I'm not going to say a pure red line build, but it was very, very heavy red. It was only running, I think, 6 or 8 blues at the time. So we've shifted a little bit on that because now we have more blue options because there are certain cards like Double Trouble, which is a very legitimate blue. So not only does it block 3 and do the thing for blue, but if you do reacts, which is what ASC wants to do, it actually becomes way more than a blue. And then we've all talked about Bonds of Agony and how disruptive this freaking card can be, right? Again, we have another blue for 1 that's not really a 1, and it really changes the whole approach. So you will see from the breakdown, I'm still on 10, which with a Blaze in the format, I think's a little low potentially. But if I run too many, then I'm really starting to run into problems with other heroes, right? So let's go ahead and kind of go through the deck, and we'll talk about some things as we do. Right, so in terms of the loadout, one of the things I like about this functionally is you're running the Assassin stuff. So I'm running the Whispers, I'm running the Shroud, and oh, Flick Knives, how I love Flick Knives. I still, to this day, think that the Dagger package out of Outsiders is pretty much not, I'm not going to say underplayed because it's probably played right within the meta. Obviously, there's way smarter people than us. But I think it's underappreciated on how effective it can be, especially on something like a Benji or something like that, okay? Then, of course, we're playing Crowd of Providence. We're not going for a mill here, right? This is a kill deck. This is not a mill deck, so we are not doing the Arakni Mass, which, ironically, yes, is the backdrop. I get it. But we're running Crown of Providence because sometimes you need to be able to cycle something out of your arsenal to be able to keep momentum. All right, so Backstab has stayed in the deck. So Backstab, no D-reacts played to its link. When we're trying to slide through some spikes or something like that, this can be very, very, very effective. A lot of times, not a lot of times, every now and then you'll have somebody overblock because they think that they know what you're trying to do, but then you can come in with another one behind it. Generally, I like to lead with this one because of that exact reason. They don't know what the card is going to be in your hand, right? And all of a sudden they're looking at a Blood Rot or something like that, +3. Right, so we are on red, blue, double trouble. Already talked about that one. The only D-React we're running in the deck is Frailty Trap. So Frailty Trap, again, you see, again, Quicksilver Prodigy is very good. There's a lot of heroes who do rely on weapons in this. But also, it doesn't have to just be weapons, right? When it defends an attack with Ghost, not just a weapon, you poop out the Frailty. And that's specifically what I'm talking to. A lot of times, like Tiger Kakara or something like that, you'll be able to block 3, which is what they're coming in with Ghost. And then you'll have something on the back end, which will, help with that, or maybe it's from Arsenal or whatever. So pretty useful there. We have added, so Red Infect, I think, is a self-explanatory card, right? Being able to do that with spikes and stuff like that. A lot of times this card sees blocks for obvious reasons. And I'm also on the blue version of this because, again, we got Just a Nick, right? Just a Nick is my spoiler card, by the way. This card's freaking gross. Absolutely gross. All right, we do have Infiltrate, which I've decided to keep in this deck because it's super fun. I love this card. I want to be completely clear. There are many other cards you could choose to run in this slot, but I love the fact that I can play that card, because a lot of times you'll get good stuff, right? You can play it, like being able to come in with, I don't know, over the course of playing this, I've pulled all sorts of fun stuff. Against the Emperor, also, I love the fact that sometimes you can get Arcane and then they don't have any B. That's a very real thing, right? Absolutely very real thing. Okay, Leave No Witnesses. This card is super self-explanatory, I believe, because yes, we are playing 2 Codex of Frailties. Sorry in advance to your wallet. But with 2 Codex of Frailties, this is so dirty. Leave No Witnesses into Frailty to bring back Leave No Witnesses is one of the dirtiest plays in all of Flesh and Blood. And on top of that, you have Bonds of Agony with all the reacts, which is another dirty play in Flesh and Blood. Dirty hero right here. Okay. So Pick to Pieces, I've also leaned into this one. An earlier version of this was running Malign and Pick to Pieces, but I found that Pick to Pieces was doing what it needed to, because remember, this gets +1 as well when you react. So I think this one does pretty good. Now, I do want to point out, you have to react into this one to get the damage unpreventable, whereas Malign, you don't. Malign just by itself is unpreventable, or I should say on its own is unpreventable, but it's a 3, which is a little harder. Okay. Now, I am still running Red Prowl. There was a lot of back and forth on whether I could fit Prowl into this deck. If you've been here for a long time, you know that I used to actually run Red-Blue Prowl. And there was a while there I was running 1 Yellow Prowl as well. The blues are obviously gone. The blue used to be a great card because it could come in for 1 and pump on the backside. It was pretty good value off of blue. But if you really look at what the other blues in this deck can do, I just had to move it out. Okay. So Razor's Edge, 0-3 react for stealth, works for everything basically except for Scar for a Scar. And then we're on Blood Rot and Frailty Spike. I constantly go back and forth on whether Frailty or Inertia is the right play. I think if this was a CC deck, I think you'd play Inertia. Because it's Blitz, I think Frailty is the right call. You can make the call that you want to make, and there's no love lost on that one. I think they're functionally very powerful and equivalent. I've just landed on Frailty. There's a lot of weapons stuff coming from. Anyway, you get it. Okay. Now, one of the things that I've taken feedback on this deck that Yellow Shred actually isn't doing what I want it to do, or isn't. People have questioned whether Yellow Shred is right and should just be playing the blue. Or that I should be playing the red. I don't functionally see, again, I've been playing this a long time. I've never functionally seen the advantage of the red shred. It can just nullify a D-react, but most of the time what you want to do is you just want to nullify something so that you can hit. And I think a lot of times the red, you actually lose the value. So I think the best one is Yellow Shred because it just nullifies another card straight up. I'm not taking away the fact that you could -4. I'm not taking that away. But in terms of just functional value of also being able to potentially pitch the yellow and get something like a dagger attack out of it, whereas you can't pitch the red to do that, these cards have really worked well. So I'm on the red and blue there, the yellow-blue there. And then another card that has really worked well for me is Concealed Blade, right? So you will, with the reacts in here, you will be flicking knives. I mean, that's kind of what you're trying to do. Well, you're trying to do reacts and then flicking knives, right? I mean, and then being able to refill it is my point. Okay, so it's really nice to be able to, because this is 2 onboard damage over the course of the game, assuming you don't have to remember it's blade break, right? So careful. But you get 2 onboard damage over the course of the game, but this not only pushes 1 over the top to do one of your amazing hit effects, it's a reaction, which helps you, and it refills a dagger, which if you haven't done at that time, I mean, it's on a hit, so it would have to be on a later chain, but you get my point, right? Would be able to backfill. Okay, so we do have Oasis Respite's gone in here because I think you need it versus the Wizard. You will notice we have a lack of poppers. I used to play Down and Dirty in this, but I think the Wizard is the more important matchup in this case. I still think you can kind of do what you want to do with the Unpreventable, trying to kind of chop through Angels. We'll see. Those are very good decks in this format. So, but again, I don't have the sideboard space. We don't have the sideboard space in this, so I did skew with Oasis Respite because it's still functional into a wider... Oasis is functional into a wider portion of the field than is the Popper, than is Down and Dirty, right? That's just the reality of the situation, okay? We have Arcane Lantern, then we have Scalpel, Orbita Class Scale Peeler, and here's the problem. Also why we're skewing Oasis, only AB2, okay? Only AB2, but again, you don't have the sideboard space if you want to be able to run the daggers, which I really think you need to be able to get advantage in your matchups. So anyway, the link is below. Give it some reps. I know a lot of you have been looking forward to this one. This is my take. There are no lack of options on which stealths to run and all sorts of stuff like that. This deck's very tricky. I do want to warn you about 1 out of 5 games, you're going to draw a dead hand. That's about my right ratio. Or I'm not right, but that's about what I'm seeing is about every 5 games I will have some weird hand that doesn't work and I'll draw like all reacts, right? Because I mean, look at it. You've got what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 reacts in the deck, right? Now, sure, they can pitch for stuff, but sometimes you just get a dead hand. The bonus is they all block real good. All of your reacts block 3. So that's the thing. And they all pitch well and they do what you want them to do. So anyway, enjoy the deck. Let me know what you're thinking below. Nothing else, folks. Go Commando.